What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of 90 Day Fiance Season 10 episode I Don't Know What to Have and to Hold. Let's get started with Igor and Nikki. So the two of them are on a little romantic getaway after they visited Igor's parents, and Igor's parents gave them the blessings for them to get married. They decided to take a little trip just for the two of them. So they go to this bed and breakfast type place, really cute, and they're both hoping that they can get things on and popping in the bedroom because, yes, y'all, they are still struggling with their in the romantic department, in the intimacy department. They are still struggling. They are not exactly on the same page with that. So the next day, Igor brags to us and tells us that, they did have sex. And this would have been the second time that they've been intimate since Nikki has been back in Moldova. 2 times. So all the days that she's been in Moldova, they've only been able to have sex 2 times. So while Igor is bragging about the fact that he was able, to perform his duties as her fiance, on the other hand, Nikki comes to tell us that it did happen. For sure it did happen, but it only happened at 3:00 in the morning. So it's in the middle of the night. I guess, she was, in the middle of sleeping. She was dead asleep. And this is when Igor is, I guess, he has risen to the occasion and he wants some Nikki. So Nikki tells us that she saw this as him being very selfish because, it wasn't on her time. It wasn't when she was dead asleep. Okay. She was fast asleep when he decided that he wanted to get frisky with her. So she saw this as a very selfish move on his part. So when they're having breakfast, Nikki asks him, is he struggling sexually because he just has some type of a problem, like he might have erectile dysfunction or something, or is he struggling because she's trans, which I thought was a really good question for her to ask him. If you can't say nothing else about Nikki, you have to say that she is very blunt, she's very open, and she gets right down to the nitty gritty. She gets to the point of it all. So he tells her that yes, it is because she's trans. And he says that he's still trying to get used to that, still trying to get acclimated to that. And he also says that she exudes a lot of masculine energy. Like whenever she's demanding sex and pressuring him to have sex. He says, in Moldova, the men are not used to that. They're used to their women being a little bit more submissive, being a lot more passive, and not be the ones to initiate and constantly beg and plead and demand to have sex. And so that's also kind of like bothering him psychologically. He says that she has a lot of masculine energy. So she completely laughed at that. And Nikki is bothered that another issue that they have is that Nikki told him that, it kind of bothers her that he has not posted her or declared their engagement on social media, something to do with social media. Because she says on her end, she's plastered picture after picture after picture of Igor and her and Igor together. But on his social media, you won't even be able to tell that he had a fiance. So he tells her, you know what, babe, look, I'll take care of that right now. So he pulls out his phone and he changes the status to engaged. And she was really happy and very tickled by that. This whole social media thing to me is just insane. Like I've said before in other reviews for other shows, I'm not into social media like that. The only thing that I do is this, which is YouTube. I don't do Facebook or Instagram or none of that stuff. This is all I do. So I don't get it. I don't get why whatever you put on social media has to justify anything in your life. And the people that know you in real life, the people that really count, they're the ones, you have to whatever they know about you, that's the real deal Holyfield, not what you put on social media. So to me, I don't understand this thing of I need to be posted on my husband's or my boyfriend's social media to feel validated as, the woman in his life. I don't get it. So after that, they go wine tasting. And it was supposed to be a wine tasting, where you taste the wine and spit it back out. But a lot of people take wine tasting as let's just go drink a whole bunch of wine and get drunk. And that's how exactly Igor and Nikki took it. So they go to this wine tasting thing and they get drunk, they get plastered. And then I guess it kind of did something to them because, I don't know if they actually ended up doing it that night because I got kind of confused with the timeline because after we saw them doing the wine tasting, they're having breakfast the next morning. Nikki is clearly hungover. So while they're having breakfast, they talk about their intimacy problems once again. And He says that, I don't understand this. He brought it up. He says, Nikki, I don't understand you. I did what you wanted me to do. You wanted it. I gave it to you, but you're still not happy. So I don't get it. So this is when she says to him, yeah, you gave it to me. All right. But you gave it to me at 3 o'clock in the morning, when I had, eye boogers and I'm slobbering all over my pillow. That's when you decide to give me some attention. And yeah, I really didn't care for that. So then after that, they talk about, this is what she says to him. She says, well, because of the fact that we're not really doing anything like the way you would expect boyfriend and girlfriend or an engaged couple to do, it's not that frequent with us, then how about we just be friends? Because I have friends. I don't sleep with my friends. I'm not sleeping with you. I mean, it's, damn nil next to nil how often we're doing it. So let's just be friends. And so then Igor says, I've heard of this concept because we have this in Moldova, this whole thing about friends with benefits, which I don't think he really understood what she was saying. Basically, I thought she was saying, let's be homies, friends, buddies, no benefits. But he took it as, yeah, be friends. And then we'll be friends with benefits. And he says, yeah, I understand this concept because we do this in Moldova. And so then she says, so you do this in Moldova. You have friends with benefits. Okay. I was a little bit lost because I thought he was saying, people do this in my country, not necessarily I do this, but people do this in my country. But no, he meant he also does this. So that's when she asked him, well, when was the last time you had a friend with benefits? Because I thought, we had been serious since day one. So when did this relationship, our relationship get serious for you? And Igor says, when I proposed to you, that's when I cut off everybody else. I stopped doing whatever the hell I was doing. And I got really focused on you after I proposed and gave you the ring. And so he had given her, so then she says, so not in, where did they go? Was it Mexico? She was like, so it wasn't in Mexico or whatever little place they went to see each other. And it wasn't when I had applied for the K1 visa for you, because I applied for the K1 visa for you back in June. So you're telling me that it didn't get serious for you until August. Okay. So I feel stupid because she says to him, I applied for the K1 visa. I always had this suspicion that you're messing around with other people. You kept on denying it, but I was right that you were messing around with other people. And so then she gets upset and she gets up and she walks away. She says that she is done with him. She is through with him, but we'll see how far that goes. So he says it didn't get serious until he gave her the ring. That's when he gave up seeing other people. And she thought it was serious, ever since June or something. So they are definitely not on the same page with that. But she said that she had her suspicions that he was seeing other people. So, I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't really trust or believe in or have a lot of faith in the Igor and Nikki relationship. I still have this feeling that Igor is with Nikki strictly for, maybe not strictly. I think he cares for her. He obviously does like her. I don't know if his love for her is as much as her love for him. But I think that it's like using her for money. I think that she has provided him a certain kind of lifestyle that he wouldn't have on his own. And I think that he's really with her for the money. That's just how I see it. And then maybe like when he comes to America, if they get that far, he probably is going to end up, breaking up with her or whatever to be on his own or be with other people. But I don't have a lot of faith in the whole Nikki and Igor relationship. Moving on to Nick and Devon. So they have arrived in Searcy, Arkansas, and they're driving through Arkansas or whatever, and all you can see is just flat land, hardly any buildings. And so Nick says that, this is very different from what he expected because, when you live in another country, your image or your how you view America, you see it like it's either New York or LA, right? Nothing in between. And Searcy, Arkansas is neither one. And so he was just a little bit like surprised on how flat all the land was and like there's no building and it's nothing like what he envisioned or what he expected. So at the house, he also gets to meet Devon's 2 sisters and brother who all live there. So it's the parents and 3 children. And now we're going to include Nick into the mix. So he made a mention about that, how many people were living in the house. So the sister says in her confessional, she tells us that Devon doesn't really show a lot of emotion, but I can tell that she's very excited for Nick being here. When she said that Devon doesn't show a lot of emotion, I was like, right on, sister, because Devon doesn't show emotion. She doesn't show any type of expression. She doesn't do anything to indicate that she has a pulse. She is very low key, very laid back. When she talks in this monotone voice. Sometimes I feel like I'm hearing an accent, but I don't understand why I'm hearing an accent because she's from Arkansas. When I say accent, I don't mean any of the North American accents. I am talking about like a European accent or something. If she talks so low, you can barely hear her. She barely moves her lips when she talks. The only time that she was not monotone was when she went out to dinner with Nick's family and she started crying at the dinner table. That's the only time that she expressed any kind of emotion. But other than that, Devon is just like no expression at all. So they take a walk around Cersei, and it's a very, very, very small town. And Nick points out that they live in White County because there was a sign in the town that said White County. So I guess Cersei is sitting in White County. And so Nick says something about how, oh, I wonder why they named it that. And so Devon says it's got nothing to do with race. Okay, you can do your own little research. You can go Google why they named it White County, but I guarantee it's got nothing to do with race. Then they walk by the Confederate soldier statue, and he was like, oh, the Confederate soldier. So, you know, the Confederate, they were on the side of keeping slavery going, right? So he knows exactly, you know, what the deal is in Cersei, Arkansas. So Nick also mentions that, you know, he believes, or he has seen, we've all seen this as well, that, you know, there was a lot of racism directed towards people of Asian descent, especially, you know, during the time when COVID was running really rampant. Unfortunately, people of Asian descent, you know, were victims of racism and prejudice and all this and that. So he's very aware of where I don't know anything about Cersei, Arkansas, so I'm not saying that people in Cersei are prejudiced. I'm not saying that at all, but it seems like Nick is having some type of a cultural awakening in Cersei, and he's realizing how he's definitely part of the minority. He even mentions that obviously in Korea there were other Koreans like him, but even when he lived in Australia, he said that, you know, some of his closest friends were also Korean. So he's never felt so much like an outsider as he does now. So later on, there's a big old family fish fry. A lot of Devon's other relatives come over, and the question was asked of Nick. One of her relatives asked Nick, what do South Koreans think of Americans? And Nick says, greasy foods and fat people. So the relatives are kind of like taken aback by that. I mean, nobody laughed. I don't think anybody blinked. It was like crickets when he said that. Like, you know, the family was kind of offended that that's how they're seen. So not them, this family, but Americans in general. And so Nick was like, I don't think that of Americans, but that's what, you know, a lot of people in my country think of think of Americans. So then, Devon looks at him and she says to him, well, what do you think? Y'all, why did she do that? Because then Nick was like, I think that because her father had said that, well, you know, there's also this conception or this misconception that Americans are also very lazy because Americans eat a lot of fast food. It's just, you know, easier and cheaper to go to a drive-through than to, you know, buy healthy foods and cook them at home. So then that's when Devon looks at Nick and says, well, what do you think? And then Nick says, oh, I think you're lazy too. He says to her, I think you're lazy because you eat a lot of fast food, and that's why I'll call you piggy. And I was like, oh, her family does not play. They didn't giggle, because sometimes, you know, when someone says something like that that's kind of offensive, sometimes people will giggle out of nervousness or out of just being uncomfortable. They want to break that silence. Her family was dead quiet when he said that, you're lazy too, and that's why I call you piggy. And then he, like, I don't know if he poked her belly or squeezed her belly, but he's like, look at all of this. Look at this. This is why I call you piggy. So they did not like that. So her parents had a chance to talk to a couple of their relatives when Nick and Devon walked away from the table, and the relatives were like, I mean, how did you feel about what he said? And her dad was like, I'm going to have a conversation with him because, that's just not acceptable that he would, you know, he calls her piggy, because that's like the parents are like, that's what he calls her. Like, he literally calls her that name. That's his pet name for her. So her parents were like, yeah, we're gonna have a conversation with him about that, because that is not cool. Her mother says, especially in America, we're so obsessed with our weight and our image, and people, they end it all because of how they're perceived, or how they feel about their bodies, or how other people feel about their bodies. It is a big deal. Self-image, self-confidence, body image issues are a very big deal. And for you to call your girlfriend Piggy, but here, y'all, my question is this. It's wonderful that her parents are going to step in and try to get him to stop calling her Piggy, because that's their baby girl. I get it, and I'm all for that. But why doesn't Devon tell him to stop? Does it not bother her? And if it don't bother her, then her parents have no business telling him to stop, but she don't really care. But if it bothers her, which I think it does, why hasn't she told him to stop? Moving on to Manuel and Ashley. So Manuel where were we at? Okay, it starts off with that where we left off last week, where Manuel and Ashley went out with a couple of Ashley's friends at this candle making place. So the question came up about money, and Manuel is sending money back to his family, and the friends got upset because they're like, well, he doesn't work, so the only money that they can send back to his family is Ashley's money, and we're not down with that. So they don't like the fact that Ashley's going to feel pressured into supporting his family back home in Ecuador. So he got upset because he's like, it's none of y'all's business. This is between me and Ashley. I don't know why y'all are putting in your 2 cents. He got up and he left and he went home. So Ashley followed him home. So at the house, he's trying to watch a soccer game on his phone, but she wants to have a conversation. And first she tells him, you can't just be walking around the city at night by yourself. You're going to run into some problems. And so then she talks about, like, why was he upset or whatever? And he tells her, look, I don't appreciate you telling your friends and your family our business. And then when I meet them, they're interrogating me about stuff. It's got nothing to do with them. This relationship is just for me and you. And so I'm not here to answer anybody's questions about what me and you are doing in our own relationship. So he really got upset. He's like, you know what? I'm done talking about it. I have nothing more to say. So then that was the end of the conversation. He went back to his soccer game. The next time that we see Ashley and, what's his name? Manuel, they go to a hot dog joint and, she's stuffing more, American food down his throat, and he really doesn't care for American food, because he says the whole time that he's been in New York, he spent about 60% of his time on the damn toilet, because his digestive system is just not used, I guess, to all the greasy foods that we eat here. So they talk about the wedding. They want to get married in Florida. She gave some excuse that I really wasn't feeling. I really didn't buy it. When she said something about, well, we met traveling, so we might as well get married traveling. What? Excuse me? That didn't make any sense to me. So they're going to get married in Florida for whatever reason. And she's going through the prices of the tickets. And it's going to be about $600 for 2 round trip tickets to whatever. So he's like, you know what? It's just too much. I don't understand why we got to spend that much on this damn wedding. Because he would rather any extra money that they have, any expendable income that they may have, he wants to send that to his family. And so it's really easy for her to spend money on her pets, spend money on this wedding. He doesn't understand. Why can't you send like half of that, all this money that you're spending? I'm not even asking you to spend all of that on my family. Just a little bit of that can go to my family. But you're like, hell no when it comes to me supporting my family. But then you throw your money away on other things. So Ashley says, this is my wedding. It's a once in a lifetime type situation. People always say that, but it ends up not being that. And she's like, I can spend what I want to have the wedding of my dreams, and I will go into debt making this happen. I really don't care. So Ashley's torn between paying for the wedding that she wants, and then him constantly badgering her about, if you have all this money, why can't you help my family instead of wasting it on, stuff like this. The next time that we see them, they are at the beach, and Manuel loves the beach. He loved being at the beach. So they go to the beach and they're having a conversation again about Manuel supporting his family. And so he breaks it down to her. He says he was just born with this spirit to help his family. Like, he can't help himself. This is just what he does. He says, I've never needed help from anybody else. I've always been the one to help others. It is just in my spirit. It is in my bones. It is in my soul. And I can't fight that feeling to help my family. And that's just what it is. And so Ashley was like, well, now since you say it like that, okay, I get it now. And so then she says that she understands. I'm thinking she says that because she's not going to have a problem or an issue anymore to help out his family. So, Ashley, I don't want to see you complaining anymore about sending money to Ecuador, if that's what it comes down to. If he's going to ask you to do that, whatever. But then also, it's just temporary. When Manuel starts working, he's going to send his own money to his family. I don't think he's always going to be having her do it. But right now, he can't work. So, Ashley said that she understood the struggle. She gets it. And then they had a good time on the beach. He absolutely loved being at the beach. And she says, you know what, baby, if you love it that much, honey, we can come to the beach every single damn day. Moving on to Rob and Sophie. So they go bowling with a couple of Rob's friends. And as they're bowling, one of his friends asks Sophie, so Sophie, what's up with you looking through my boy's phone? Why are you doing that? And so Sophie was like, well, did he tell you why I was looking through his phone? Because, you know, back in the day, he did some online cheating. I looked through his phone again and he went back to his online cheating. And he was sexting and he was complimenting these women who were sending him these explicit videos. And so, yeah, I was all up in the phone. So the friends were like, oh, see, Rob didn't tell us all of that. He just said you were looking through his phone. So then they confront Rob and they're like, Rob, when you told us that your girl was looking through your phone, you didn't tell us that you were the one that was doing wrong, that you were up there, you know, looking at explicit videos and communicating with other women online. You're basically online cheating on her. You didn't tell us all that. And Rob has the audacity to say that wasn't important. He says something like, why would I have to tell y'all that? What difference does that make? That's not important, or something to that effect. And so his friend was like, it is important, Rob. You didn't tell us the whole story. So we are judging her based on your half truths. You know, we are unfairly judging her, forming these opinions about her based on the misinformation you're giving us. And that's not fair to her. Like, don't you understand, Rob? So he felt really offended. He felt like they were all ganging up on him. After that, we see Sophie. She's FaceTiming one of her friends in London. And she tells her friend that she is having a great time in LA. She loves LA. And then she tells her friend about Rob's online cheating. Okay, so my question is this, baby girl. Why would you tell your friend about him online cheating? Like, why do you tell your friends always a negative, especially since you have forgiven him, you decided to stay with him and that you're going to move on with him? Why are you now bringing it up to your friend if you've moved on? Because your friends are only going to see him in a negative light. Like, why wouldn't you tell him something a little bit more positive? You know, talk about, well, this man really loves me and blah, 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 blah. And if you're going to talk about the online cheating, did you also mention how he profusely apologized and how you had forgiven him and he felt so bad about doing it and he was crying and yelling and hooting and hollering and feeling really bad that he did this? You left all that out. Oh, he was online cheating again, and that's all you said. So after that, her friend was like, so when are you going to tell him that you're bisexual? And so she's like, yeah, I'm going to have to tell him that soon. So the next time that we see them, they're going to go buy rings, right? The wedding bands. And Rob is going to have her on a very tight budget because Rob is Poe. So after that, you know, she's really nervous. She says she's got like a lot of anxiety because she's about to drop this bomb on him that she's bisexual. So she's like, you know, breathing really hard. And then she steps outside on the patio and he's like, what the hell's going on here? So he follows her out to the patio and she's having a full-blown anxiety attack. And he's like, Sophie, what's wrong? And she's like, I got something to tell you. I gotta tell you something. I just have a lot of anxiety. But don't worry, it's nothing bad. Okay, it's nothing bad, but you're having a heart attack right in front of me. But it's nothing bad. And so she keeps like breathing really hard. And finally she gets it out and she confesses to him because she's making it seem like, you know, she's confessing to a murder or something. So she finally says to him, I'm bi. And she says it like just that quick. She's like, I'm bi. And he's like bisexual? And she's like, yeah. And then that's where their segment ends. And I don't know how he's going to take it. The way that I see Rob, I just don't know. I don't think he's going to take it very well. I don't think he's going to take it because he's kind of like very possessive of her. So not only does he have to worry about other men, he's got to have to worry about other women. That's going to be just too much for him. So moving on to our newest couple, Sam and Citra. So Sam is 30 from Missouri. Citra is 26 from Indonesia. Sam is a recovering opiate addict. They met on a dating app. she reached out to him first because she said that she didn't believe that he was the age that he said that he was because he looked so much younger. So she was like, oh, are you really 26 years old? I guess at the time that they met, he was about 26, and she didn't believe that he was that old because he looked really, really young. And so that's how it all started. So she knows about his drug past. They met in person for the very first time after 2 years of dating in Indonesia. He went to go visit her in Indonesia, and while he was over there, he proposed. So then we meet Citra. Her mom passed away 2 years ago. Her and her sisters are very close. They had gotten even closer after the passing of her mother. Her faith is extremely important to her. She is Muslim, and she wants Sam to convert to Islam. So he lives with his dad, who is an atheist. His dad is an atheist, but his dad believes in aliens, and that aliens are going to come get us one day or come visit us one day or something like that. So his dad is a very strong believer in UFOs and aliens. And Sam says that he himself is also now an atheist. His mom is very Christian, but since living with his dad, I guess, some of those atheist beliefs have rubbed off on him. But he says he's willing to convert. I think that's what he said. He's willing to convert to Islam. Now that's going to be like a huge shock to go from atheist to Muslim. So Citra is she's going to be arriving in the U.S. soon, and because they're going to get married, 90 Day Fiance, they have 90 days to get married, but she wants to get married right away because her father is going to be joining her on this visit. Not at the same time, but a little bit after she arrives, her father is going to also be arriving in America because he wants to meet Sam, and he wants to make sure that they get married, and he wants to make sure that they don't fornicate. So they're going to have to get married very, very quickly, because I think the father does not feel comfortable if they live together without getting married, because he feels like the temptation is going to be strong. So I think the father is going to be there to regulate them getting married quickly, so that when he comes back to Indonesia, he'll have the peace of mind knowing that, okay, my daughter's married, I don't have to worry about fornicating. And that's where the little segment ends. So that's, their story is kind of interesting. It is what it is. I'm a little bit interested in them. But anyways, that's my review. Thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. If you like this content, subscribe to my channel, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.